Oh shit, Chi-Chi? Is that boy Nesty Nate?
So what's going on, guys? Today we'll be covering the Survivalist. This consists of Silo and Venomous. Overall, just kind of as a category for Survivalists, every archetype essentially shares the same skill tree, and Wingrave, Sinjea, and Grandel all share the same talent tree as well. And it's the same thing with the Survivalist, Silo and Venomous. And we'll just go like a quick introduction right now to all of their legendary talent points, right? So you have your opportunism here, landing critical hits, grants you increased crit power between you and all your nearby allies, and that stacks up to 20 times. So essentially every single time you're critting, it stacks up to 20 times for you and nearby allies. If you're playing with, friends or just in a group of sorts, you can get up to 20% of your critical power extra from this talent tree. And then Careful Strikes, this increases your crit rating by 50%, so your total crit rating gets increased by 50%, and but the base multiplier for all your critical hits is reduced by 33%. And I believe critical hits have like an additive damage base. Basically, every time you hit and it crits, it does like an additional 50% damage. And then we go over here to Guerrilla Tactics. This is one's kind of like unique. Each critical hit now has a 20% chance to grant you 10 stamina, so 20% chance. One in every 5 hit basically has a chance to grant you an extra 10 stamina. I haven't played around with it too much, but this could potentially probably be good for like a speed farming build of sorts or whatever, so when you're running out of stamina, you just, as you're bunny hopping around, you kind of just shoot an enemy to the side, and you can maybe, if you get lucky, fill up your stamina bar and just kind of keep going on your way. We're going to the Will Survive. Incoming is damage gets reduced by 20%, scaling if you're missing stamina. So when your stamina bar is like completely depleted, you get that total 20% reduced to incoming damage, and when it's halfway, you get like 10%. And then Speed Demon. Dodging now grants a 6% increase to weapon power, stacking up to 5 times and lasting 4 seconds. So that's essentially once you get it to max. And if you keep it at max, it's a permanent 30% increase to weapon power. I kind of have this crazy combo I do. I'll be sharing the juice with y'all when I release this silo build. For Survivalists, they have a kind of unique combo you can do that stacks with buffs with 2-handers, and I'll go into more in depth on that when we start releasing our builds and guides for that. And then Counterplay, you drop the Timed Explosion when dodging away from nearby enemies. You have a 10-second cooldown for that. Deadly Insight, your exposed weakness is now stronger, making enemies 5% more vulnerable. So, essentially, you're just having more vulnerable damage on enemies, and it's making them take 5% more damage from your sources. And then your Red Feast, your exposed weakness also causes the target to heal all attackers for a small amount. So this is kind of good in a sense. I guess like Silo doesn't really have any heals in his kit. He has his clone. Venomous doesn't need it at all. Venomous already has a pretty good heal. But I would say if you're just going to try to heal this, like if you're trying to go the healing route, you're better off just going Wingrave or Venomous than wasting and specking into this. That's just my humble opinion though. Your exposed weakness also provides a small boost to an ultimate meter charge. Alright, so this talent tree is shared between Silo and Venomous. Alright, and then just going into the Silo's abilities here. He initially have his Firebomb, and that's kind of like his starting character ability. You toss a Firebomb, it ignites enemies, and it deals damage over time, so dot damage. And this causes a chain reaction with Oil Bomb, this ability, resulting in a large explosion. So if you throw your Oil Bomb down and then your Firebomb, it does a lot more damage and it explodes like it's saying in the skill. When you upgrade it to level 1, it increases just a flat direct damage of the ability by 10%. Level 2 increases the burn damage because it's the initial impact, and then there's a little bit of a dot damage over time with the burning. And then at level 3, if an enemy dies while burning, they'll detonate and deal damage to nearby enemies. And then Protoclone, this ability really kind of helps set Silo apart a lot. He is super easy for clearing content solo just because of this ability. Even in team play, like, if your tank goes down or something, you can pop this clone and it takes all aggro if you do it right, and you can just heal somebody for free. Or if you're super low and need to pop a potion, but you got a whole bunch of enemies, or the boss is like doing his crazy moveset on you, you could just clone op, get away, and it's kind of a get out of jail free card essentially. Gives you nice breathing room. So you dash backward, you leave the clone behind, that pulls nearby enemies in, and the clone will taunt nearby enemies into attacking it until it expires. At level 1, you just get a flat increase of the duration of the clone by 25%. Level 2, shooting the clone for ranged attack with the gun will cause a concussive explosion, dealing high break damage to nearby enemies. So you can throw your clone down and just repeatedly shoot it. I'll kind of show it. I don't have a gun right now. But if I had a gun, I would just shoot this right here, and then it would just keep exploding, and then going on all saying Firebomb, boom. That's how it is normally. But if you throw oil pit down, right, bigger explosion. So it's the same concept with those. And at level 3, it adds an explosion upon its expiration, and it deals damage to all enemies that are within range of it. And unless they're ranged characters, all of the enemies that are on the clone are just gonna, like it shows in the little video up there, they're just gonna keep smacking on it. And finally we get an oil bomb, which makes Silo really, 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 really good. Right, he leaves a pool of oil in front of him, slows enemies, and enemies directly hit by that bomb are also oiled, and they remain slow even after leaving the oil pit, and take additional damage when ignited by firebomb and refreshes a charge of firebomb. So my kind of combo with the firebombs, you throw firebomb, throw an oil pit, and then throw another firebomb, and that oil pit, when you throw that second firebomb, it refreshes your firebomb. So it's like you get kind of a 3 firebombs for one. It's like two for one essentially. And then at level 1, it burns enemies hit when the pool of oil detonates, dealing dot damage. Level 2, oil enemies are more likely to be critically hit, and this one makes it really, really huge. You do this in Tangent with some of the affinities that we're going to go over later, and you use like either like your weapon ability or you charge up a big attack, and it does nuclear damage because it's basically almost guaranteed a critical hit in Tangent with a bunch of other things that you can use from the Survivalist kits. And then at level 3, this just increases its damage slate and the guard break detonation by 15%. And then going on to his ult, it kind of rains down like in this little AoE. You see it's like columns of like light energy, like laser beams raining down from the sky, and that do pretty decent damage. I haven't really spec'd or tried to do an ability power, but I imagine you could probably get some nuclear damage with that. At level 1, it just increases the base damage by the ult by 10%. At level 2, it slows enemies hit by 40%. And at level 3, affected enemies take 20% more damage for 6 seconds. So that means like their incoming damage would get that 20% extra depending on what damage you're doing. So like, you know, if you do like 1,000 damage, you do 1,200 damage for them for the 6 seconds after using your ult here. And then his key passive, he deals 10% bonus melee in range shot damage to enemies that are debuffed, right? Slowed, burning, poisoned, stun, etc. So for a boss, you're going to want to cycle. You're going to want to either set them on fire, slow them, essentially to keep getting those debuffs. And I'll just kind of do a quick little showcase of his abilities real quick. And like I'm saying, his clone is absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to throw fireball on someone real quick. You see they're burning, and that counts as a debuff when they're burning. So just like I was telling you earlier, and we can go ahead and throw oil pit. Boom, set fire. And you saw how when we throw the oil pit, it refreshed the charge of our fireball. I'm going to say it's getting too hot. Oh, crap. I do my clone. Again, enemies take that. And I'm just chilling. Right? Gonna be same thing. I absolutely messed up my oil pit. I was hoping that they were just going with it, but it is fine. So you always basically kind of just want to keep your enemies debuffed. I'm going to show you guys my affinity tree in a second here, and you'll see really, really why you want to keep enemies debuffed. But I'll show you guys a little sneak teaser. You saw how I was running the weapon talent mastery, where you dodge, you get more total weapon power percentage. So what I like to do is I made this kind of little combo, because if you light attack and heavy attack with a two-hander on Silo, you get increased critical chance and critical power for heavy attacks, and you'll see these bars right here, right? Speed demon, critical chance up. So what I like to do is I dash backwards, do a 2-hit heavy combo, dash backwards, light attack, do a 2-hit heavy combo, dash, light attack, 2-hit heavy combo, and you can see like all my buffs and stuff being maintained the whole time, and it's really, really good for bossing. And then a little showcase of his ult here. Alright, and then diving straight into his affinity. So his perks for the first one, increases the bonus damage of Strategic Advantage, which is an ult, by an additional 10%. Ultimate meter slightly fills every time a basic attack hits a debuff target, right? So if they're on fire by the firebomb, or if they're slowed by the oil pit, hot streak, you gain 2% movement speed for each enemy you set on fire of your firebomb, so that stacks up to 5 times, giving you a total of 10% movement speed at its cap. And then increases crit chance by 10% against debuffed targets. So once again, we're getting even more crit chance. That's just a flat crit chance by 10%. When it says crit chance like that and not crit rating, that's just an additional 10% crit chance that you get for that. So when they're on fire or slowed, that's just 10% extra crit chance we get base. Basic attacks that critically strike a debuff target will reduce your active cooldown by 20%. And this effect can occur once every 6 seconds. So once you crit hit every 6 seconds, if you're basically constantly critting, which you should be with Silo, this is basically you're getting your cooldowns reduced by 20% every single 6 seconds. And then once again, you get your crit chance increased by an additional 10% against debuff targets. So just if you have fully invested into the skill tree like I did, that's a flat 20% crit chance that you get by 10%. On top of his oil spill increasing crit, and on top of whatever crit rating you have. And then deep cuts, hitting an enemy with Ignite grants 1% ability power for 10 times, which basically is the burning from the oil pit, and that stacks up to 5 times. Deep pockets, basic attacks have a 2% chance to refresh the cooldown of fire bombs. So when you're just hitting, you have a 2% random chance to reset your fireball cooldown. And then once again, just keeps your buffs up. So you can go really in depth with Silo. Like, you know, he's definitely one of your Survivalists in general, like Venomous and Silo, are really just great solo characters. If you don't really see yourself kind of playing with a group, you're more of like a solo wolf type of player. Survivalists are good. I mean, they're even amazing in a team. I think everything is better in a team. But Survivalists kind of really shine in their solo play just because, like I said, Silo has his get out of jail free card. He's, you know, debuffing enemies. He has his own debuffings, right, to keep all his stacks and stuff up if you're just very, you know, efficient with it. And, I mean, all the characters are kind of drippy, so I can't really just, you know, exclusively praise him for drip, but he does look good, man. But, you know, if this fits your kind of playstyle, if Silo is still something that you want to do, I mean, here you go, man. I give you keys to success. That's all I have to say about Silo. Moving on to Venomous here. She is our second Survivalist. Once again, she shares the same talent tree as Silo. And going into her abilities right away, her first basic ability is called Transfusion. And what it does is it shoots a volley of these poison needles, and it locks on to nearby enemies, deals damage, and it hits them with a needle, causing a healing projectile to seek you if you're playing solo, or any nearby wayfinder. If the enemy was affected by the venom, these projectiles will heal whoever it hits for a small amount of overtime heal. And at level 1, it increases the damage dealt by 15%. At level 2, it is increasing the healing that you get from that overtime by 15%. And at level 3, it follows an additional 2 homing needles that have, you know, each have chance to basically deal venom and get a poison stack. And then if it does deal the venom and gets a poison stack, then for each basically needle that does that, you can get the overtime heal. So it's kind of cool. Sounds really cool. It goes actually a little bit farther than you would think too. And then for her next ability, you have Venom Thrusters, where she dashes in a straight line and she leaves a poison cloud trail behind her. And these poison clouds damage and apply stack to enemy venom as well. And that's kind of her whole kit, right? Even her passive, Master of Venoms. Her weapon hits apply venom, deal damage over time, dot damage. That stacks up to 5 times. So you get 5 instances of dot damage. And weapons hit against enemies with 5 stacks of venom. It creates a poison cloud. So once you get that 5 venom stacks, it creates a poison cloud that deals damage and applies stacks of venom even more. And this poison cloud can only be created by this effect once every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, you can proc a poison cloud that just refreshes all your venom stacks on them. And it's just kind of like an endless cycle. As long as you're hitting an enemy, they're always just going to be poisoned. It's pretty crazy. And then one ability into her Venom Thrusters spawns an additional poison cloud, which lets her go farther with the ability. And also, in tangent with Vampiric Blast, you can either use Vampiric Blast, like when you get poison venom stacks on an enemy, or if you're trying to heal or get out of a nasty situation to heal, you can use Venom Thrusters to heal as well. And at level 2, it reduces the damage taken by 50% for 3 seconds, which is pretty huge. If you kind of want, it's not as good as Silo's clone per se, but Venom has a lot more healing in her kit. And, you know, sometimes all you need is an extra, maybe if you're out of stamina, you need an extra dash, or you want something to where you can be more aggressive with. This isn't a bad option to take the reduced damage by 50% for 3 seconds. And then at level 3, if you dash through an enemy, and it slows them by 30% for 8 seconds as well. And then going on straight to Vampiric Blast, I mentioned it a little bit just previously. You launch a bomb that absorbs up to 5 nearby poison clouds. After a brief delay, the bomb explodes and it deals damage to enemies and heals allies based on the number of poison clouds absorbed. So like I'm saying, like you can get the extra poison cloud here, and the extra one I believe it spawns is like 4 or 5. And then, or you could use the venom from a boss or just a regular mob. So when you're shooting an enemy, you'll see like the poison on them when they're inflicted with the poison stacks, and it'll start ticking from the dot damage. You can throw this canister on straight top of them, and if you get close enough, it'll heal you as well. Or like I said, you can use your Venom Thrusters. I'll showcase both here in a second. But at level 2, when you convert a cloud, it causes the cloud to erupt, dealing direct damage before disappearing. And then at level 3, players get a healing over time effect based on the number of clouds converted. So the more poison clouds you're absorbing, the stronger the heal is and the stronger the damage is. And her ult, Deep Breath, at level 1 increases the flat damage rate of it by 10%. And at level 2, allies in the area of the explosion get another healing over time effect. And at level 3, her ultimate builds just a flat 10% faster. And her character ultimate ability, I kind of skipped the description a little bit, but it fires a massive explosion that damages and applies 5 stacks of empowered venom to enemies. And empowered venom deals damage over time and counts as additional stacks of venom for the Master of Venoms and transfusion abilities. So it's another separate 5 venom ticks that you're getting out of her ult. So her ult, usually whenever you get her ult, especially in boss fights, you're just going to throw it down. You know, you're healing allies if you get that level 2, and then you're doing even more damage. And her whole kit is about poisoning. I have a crazy crit rating build with her, so everything I do crits. None of my hits do not crit. You're gonna see in a second. It is pretty wild, right? That was a fake. That's my little laser. I kind of lasered him too fast before you guys could see the poison stacks. Yeah, all these guys are just kind of getting slapped around. But yeah, so this is Venomous here. This is the thrusters that I was talking about earlier. I have the extra cloud. So you see with the extra cloud it spawns 4. You do the canister here. And you saw how each of those 4 exploded. And you see the up arrow healing over time with it. And also on top of the healing over time, I also, because I upgraded, I got the healing over time. But it also does a big flat, see my poison ticks there? Just without damage and everything's critting. That's why I personally like going crit rating build with Venomous, because you can get so much different Venom stacks. I get an additional Venom stack for my weapon that I'm using as well, and it's just crazy. We got poison on poison on poison. So crit rating goes burr on Venomous, but you could go ability power and everything as well. It just depends on what you like. You see here, you just boom. You could do this. This is a nice kind of good AoE damage too for like mobs. Seeing them, look at that. Our poison, so much damage and everything is just critting like crazy. She probably heals. She heals, I think, better than Wingrave. She might be like kind of a designated healer, maybe for like potential harder content that we may get in the future. She's not tanky. You'll never be able to build her as tanky, but she does really good damage, solid, you know, consistent damage. Constantly has like a debuff on the enemy for poison, so you know could work in tangent with somebody like a Silo or somebody who does, you know, increased damage on debuff targets essentially. And
I've been waiting for this.
Look at that, just poison everywhere. Poison healing everywhere. She's just definitely a good character all around. If you kind of like dip in your hands and, you know, a little bit of everything, you want to have good damage, you know, solid, consistent DPS. You also kind of want to maybe heal if you're playing with a friend that's playing tank or front lines more, that you'd like using two-handers or something, you know, then this potentially could be like a good combo for you guys. That's all I have to say about Venomous. If you guys liked the video, you know, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, yeah, even comment. I'll say what's up back to y'all. I'll show the love back. But we'll be doing our Arcanist tomorrow, and then we'll slowly start releasing the build guides and putting y'all onto the juice. But that's it for me, guys.